They throw that out there.
It'll be good. So, Facebook and YouTube family, and wherever else you may be listening, welcome to another edition with the Empowerment Platform, where our goal is just to empower you to reach your goals, whatever they may be. Tonight, I'm super excited to have a good friend of mine that we are both extreme execution certified coaches, Mr. Ben Bakayoko.
Well,
How's it going, Ben?
I'm super great. Thanks so much for asking, Tyrus. It's a pleasure to be on the show.
So Ben is a marriage coach, and if you see the title and the topic, you see it's relationships one-on-one. So we're just going to be discussing tonight relationships, marriage in particular, and how everything with this COVID and with COVID-19 and coronavirus going on, we're spending a lot more time in the house with our significant others. Some people are having negatives in that, other people are having positives. But me and Ben are just going to talk about some relationship tips, goals, and he's going to really share with us his experience as a marriage coach and things that he thinks will help build our relationships and make them stronger. So, Ben, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and how you got into marriage coaching.
All right, no doubt, no doubt. Thanks, man. So, of course, again, it's a pleasure to be on the show here. So, again, my name is Ben Bakayoko. I was born in the Ivory Coast. That's West Africa. I immigrated to the U.S. when I was 2 years old, and I was pretty much raised here. I did some time in foster care, actually, but then the rest of my life, I was with my parents, of course. I have an older sister, but I grew up as an only child, so it was just me. So I got married immediately after college. That was 5 years ago, 6 years ago now. And it's just like right after I graduated, I got married. The next year I had a kid. Then I was like, wow, this is pretty tough. And then I went to get my MBA degree, started working and stuff like that, on my feet. And then I got another kid, right? So it's just like there's me with two kids there. And it's just like, at the time, I'm just like, wow, marriage is awesome. But with the pressure of kids, it just started to become a lot more hard. It became harder to just spend time with family, to take care of the family, and to provide. I started to notice over time, I started to put such an emphasis on getting paid. Like I wanted to earn so much more money. I wanted to become financially free. And it just started to strain my relationship. Whereas I wasn't spending any more time with my wife, I wasn't spending that much time with my kids, and I wasn't spending no more time with my son who was just recently born. And then come October of last year, my wife and I, we had an experience where it was right before she was invited to a podcast to celebrate our relationship. We had a fight the morning before.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And essentially the fight was I spend too much time working and she spends too much time with the kids, and I wasn't helping her enough with the kids. And so the morning before her podcast, I come home and I'm chilling on the couch and I'm just laying there. And she just comes and drops my son on him. He's little. My daughter is crying and stuff like that. And I was being a brat. I was being inconsiderate. And I just didn't feel like taking care of my kids at the time. And then I actually told her that. And then it just started this huge argument and huge conversation where I finally got to the point to admitting, like, hey, honestly, baby, I know that I'm not being the father that I can be. I'm not being the husband that I can be. I apologize. These are my feelings. And from this day forward, I promise to be more honest and transparent with you about my role as a father, my role as a husband, and what I'm doing on a consistent basis to make sure you know I love and care about you guys. So that was basically the transition and the shift for me. There it is right there.
Okay. So during that time where you felt like you had to make a lot of money and that was your goal, and you were kind of putting the family on the second part of that, what drove you to have those feelings in the first place that you needed to make a lot of money?
So this goes back to my experience as a child. So growing up as the only child, but I realized that I didn't get a chance to spend that much time with my father. He was always working. Okay. And what I promised myself as a kid was, man, I'm not going to be like my dad. Like he spends all his time working, but he doesn't have no time for his family. So I was like, when I grow up, I'm going to make so much money that I'll always have time to spend with my family.
Right.
I was up there. I had the subconscious belief that the more money I made, the more time I'd be able to spend with my family. But what I didn't realize at the time is I can make money and spend time with my family. They didn't have to be two separate things. So subconsciously, I was repeating what my father did to me.
Absolutely. And didn't even recognize it because you were trying to get to a whole different, you had good intentions. And out of those good intentions, you still fell into that same role of work first and push first. And that's something that's common. It's a common theme throughout all entrepreneurs because they breed and what they tell you is the grind.
No doubt.
Grind. You got to get it. You got to go while you're going. And people sometimes teach erroneously that you should sacrifice those early years to get it done, and then you'll have the rest of your life with your family.
That's what I was on. Like, it's sad to say, man, I was working so hard. Like, I'm talking 60, 80-hour work weeks. And I remember even missing the birth of my son because I was away at a conference, dude.
Wow.
And I had prioritized the conference over it. Just like my wife was pregnant, she didn't want me to go, but I'm like, baby, I have to go because I got to get this money. I got to build this business. And just after this business is built, we can spend all the time we can together. So, of course, it was a wonderful experience. I grew a lot from making those decisions. But when I look back, now I have the priority set. God first, family second, business third. You know, so in the conflicts. So what you got for me now?
So now that you have made that shift, made that turn, what made you want to give, I guess, your learning lessons, your advice to other people? What got you into marriage coaching?
So I told you a story earlier about that fight my wife and I had, and it was unspoken. So a lot of times in relationships, we're experiencing things. We experience resentment, we experience frustration, but we don't necessarily tell our spouse this is how we're feeling. It's just like we just feel it on the inside and we don't say anything about it. And they may be experiencing the same thing, but to be able to come together and share those things without being defensive, without being offensive, and just mutually understanding each other with that natural, heartfelt understanding, it just doesn't happen. But that's what happened for us when I finally chose to tell my wife I've been messing up. And then I gave her the opportunity to be like, honestly, I've been messing up as well. What can we do to fix this?
Okay. Right. So basically communication.
Absolutely. So what we decided to do was record a podcast together because she was invited to do a podcast before the show. She did really great on it. And it's like, hey, baby, why don't we hold each other accountable to every week coming together, sitting down and just talking about our relationship, what we're doing well, what we could do better, and just talking about our experiences. So what that did for us was give us the opportunity to talk every week about what we were experiencing in a relationship. And then from week to week, we're just starting to learn more things about ourselves and about our relationship that we could work on. And that's what really excited us and kept us going. And that's when I was like, yo, this is what I really need, because I spent so much time running away from my relationship. And I do believe some people do experience that as well. So, and we don't really talk about it as men. So I'm like, yo, I really want to target young African-American men so we can talk more about this topic.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. And with that, I think, and you hit the nail on the head when you said communication, because I find that open communication does help and it will strengthen your relationship. But with me, and we was discussing this a little bit earlier, having such a dominant personality, sometimes I get defensive immediately. My wife will bring something to me, or she'll say, I just want to talk. Why are you getting defensive? And I'm like, man, I think about it. I really do. I get defensive almost immediately. And she's just trying to bring something to my attention. But I sometimes feel like it challenges me, I guess. So do you have that same type of feeling, or how does your communication work with your wife? How do you guys help me communicate better with my wife?
So what I started to realize is what I mean and what I say are two different things.
Okay.
All right. So what I've started to do and what my wife started to do with me is when we say something, we want to confirm, hey, is this what you really meant? So I kind of repeat back to her what she just said to me to get clarity and understanding. And she does the same thing for me. So therefore, she doesn't assume, or I don't assume there was malintent or I don't assume she was really trying to get under my feelings. And in the beginning of the relationship, it's just like you said, it's like, yo, what's wrong with you?
Yep.
What's wrong with me? Oh,
Right.
my bad, baby. I didn't mean what's wrong with you. I mean, is there anything bothering you right now? Is there anything I could do to help you right now? What's on your mind, baby? Instead of saying what's wrong with you, it's perceived two different ways. And then if I'm the person who's being told what's wrong with you, like, what do you mean what's wrong? Oh, there it is.
Yep.
Absolutely. So just seeking clarity about what a person is saying. One of the other things that I think is really important about that when it comes to communication is scheduling time to actually communicate. So one of the things my wife and I do is like every day. So we didn't get into the personalities yet, but I'm a high S, she's a high C. And I'm more extroverted and she's more introverted. So if you've ever read The Five Love Languages, what he says is there's two types of people when it comes to communication. You got babbling brooks, people who just don't know how to shut up. And then you have the Dead Sea personality, people just that be quiet, are comfortable being quiet, they don't have nothing to say. So I'm the babbling brook, she can be the Dead Sea. And that's what attracted us. So in the beginning of the relationship, I was always talking and she was always listening, and that was pretty cool. But it got to the point where it's like, baby, I don't know you that like that. I'm always talking, talk more. And she's like, be quiet more. But I never stopped talking, and she never started talking. So it was really a point of conflict there.
Okay.
So learn as to how do I stop talking so much and give her the time to actually speak and express herself.
Absolutely. And I like what you said there. My wife and I started doing what we call the State of the Union for our marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we at? What are things that are we meeting each other's needs?
Mm-hmm.
There's something that I'm not doing that you would like me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then just on a grade level, how is the relationship A through F?
Mm-hmm.
What can we do better?
Okay.
Having those on a regular basis. And also we instituted a couple night, not a date night, because date nights you have people want to go out and want to do things, but Thursday nights are our couple night. So it's where we might have our State of the Union that night. We might play a game, we might ask questions. I'll look up something and just ask just random questions to deepen the relationship level, because I think that, and I want to get your opinion on it too. A lot of people get into relationships and they have the butterfly feeling, the I'm in love feeling, but then they forget that relationships still need work and you have to be purposeful and you have to really be intentional on making your relationship better. It's just not going to be, I think people think that, oh, if we're 100% compatible and we're made for each other, we don't have to do any work. We'll be in love forever.
That's tough. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And if you ever heard, like that's what we call the in love phase, where it's just like before you get into the relationship or you start living together, or before you get married, it's like there's this natural intimacy, this natural bond, and you just like you feel drawn and committed to the person, and you don't doubt for a second that they have ulterior motives for the relationship. Then once you get married, totally different story. Now you start to see some of the sides of them that you might have overlooked before. So some of the same attributes that you appreciated about the person now gets on your nerve.
Yeah.
And an interesting fact or statistic that I found when it came to marriages, what it said is 69% of relationship issues, they're one perpetual, like they never get solved, right? They're continuing perpetual, they never get solved. And at the same time, it boils down to differences in personality, meaning I just like to do something a different way than you do, and you can't seem to understand that.
Wow.
All it is. So once you understand and appreciate the fact that your husband or your wife was brought up in a different way than you, they have different preferences and tendencies than you, and they just like to behave in a different way than you, and that's okay. 69% of your problems are solved. It's just like, now let's delegate. Like, how would you like things to be done? How would you prefer things to be done? This is what I can do for you. This is what I feel comfortable doing. How can we make this work for the best?
Right. How to make it, how can we bring our different backgrounds, different upbringings, different preferences together as a unit and make it ours, make this new home our home, make the rules our rules. And I'm thinking, even in my relationship in the beginning, we had conflict because I was so used to doing and seeing my family do things a certain way, and I wanted to bring that into the relationship and let that be the way
Absolutely, no doubt.
without having uh, allowing. No, I don't like that word allowing, but not having my wife's understanding that she has her own preferences, the way she wants to do things, and
Mm-hmm.
that we have to establish this together.
Mm-hmm.
Not that my way was better,
Absolutely.
what we can bring together to make it better. And now that, and you mentioned the five love languages, and we talked a little bit about the personalities. Can you go deeper into the personality styles and how understanding those can make your relationship stronger?
Absolutely. And we touched based on it. So when we talk about the DISC assessment and even marriage coaching and even the four love languages, right? So what I like to teach people is just like, yo, step one, the first level of mastery is getting a confident self-awareness of yourself and also an understanding of how others perceive you, right?
Right.
And then that second level of mastery is getting a understanding, appreciation, and accepting the fact that people are basically different and you have no control to change them, right? And then that third level of mastery is getting to a point where you can modify your own behavior depending on the situation or circumstance or another person's behavior so you can more effectively communicate, relate, motivate, inspire, or connect with a person so you can build a relationship with trust and respect. So we all want relationships that are meaningful, right? So
Right.
you do it, and you can't get to the meaningful relationship without one becoming a self-aware, and then two becoming more aware of others and how they prefer to do things, and then three being able to modify your behavior. So that's the framework I like to work with.
Okay.
Um, so if that makes sense, I saw you thinking there. Do you have a question come to mind right there?
Go ahead. Go. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. So again, I mentioned the fact that I'm a high S. My wife is a high C. So
Mhm.
when we have fights, I want to talk about the fight. I want to talk about what happened. I feel comfortable at this point in my life because naturally I wasn't like this, right? But at this point in my life, I feel comfortable coming to her to discuss the problem,
Mhm.
right? But based on how she was raised, if there's an issue or concern, she wants to take time to reflect on it, think about it, and once she feels comfortable talking about it, because she doesn't want to fight, then we come and fight. Then we come and talk about it,
Gotcha.
and that can take days. I'm like, no, nobody. Now let's get over it. Let's go to the next level. And she's like, nah, I can do it out there. Let me take my time, right? So those are our preferences. So how do we come to a mutual agreement? And this is what I heard. Um, we tend to treat our preferences like life and death. So in the past, when there was a fight or argument, I was like, yo, we have to talk about it. If we don't talk about it, we'll never get over this problem. I may be angry at you, you may be angry at me, and it's gonna be the worst.
Yep.
But
Yep.
I came to a point because of the DISC assessment, it's just like, you know what? What do you want out of this relationship? What is it that you need? How can I best serve you? So I got to the point in a relationship where it's just like, I know like this is an argument, this is a fight. I want you to understand me and understand the fact that I need to communicate. But since that is in your presence and that's not what you feel like, you tell me what you need. Let me understand what's going on in your world. Right. And then she explains to me she needs more time. I know what, babe? It's okay. You can do whatever it is that you need to do. And whenever you feel ready, you're comfortable talking to me, let's talk about it. And if you decide never to talk about it, I'm cool because I love you and we could get past this. I just feel it as though it'll be cool to understand you better or understand what happened so it doesn't repeat again. But if you never feel comfortable talking about it, I'll be all right and we can move forward anyway. I was just,
Beautiful.
wow, I got over a fight without having to share my side of the story. I didn't have to be right. And it's just like, that was when it was groundbreaking for me. That was the huge breakthrough right there. Just getting outside of my own preference and appreciating somebody else's world.
Absolutely. That's beautiful. And I had similar, we went through similar issues where she has to take time to reflect, then talk about it. And I want to talk about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that being a high D problem solver, I want to solve the problem to fix it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I can admit that there were a lot of times where I wanted to be right. And I wasn't right. I wasn't right. My perspective wasn't right, but
Okay.
I wanted it to be. And I demand that we have that conversation right now. We're not going nowhere until we talk about it. And that caused the conflict because she doesn't want to talk and she needs to have the time to reflect, to gather her thoughts, and then we can have the conversation. So over time, I learned to, okay, when she says that not right now, that means not right now.
Okay, no doubt.
And I just back away a little bit. And then when she's ready to talk, then we can have a meaningful conversation and not argue.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
A lot of people argue because they're just, boom, I'm trying to be right, you trying to be right.
Okay.
But you are trying to find the happy medium and what's best for us, then it takes away all the inflated part of it
No
and
doubt.
brings it back down. Another thing I learned was, like you said, we want to talk right now, and it's life and death if we don't talk.
Yeah.
I learned to, and we both were learn what are your $100 problems and what are your penny problems.
No doubt.
So if it's not something that is how we're raising the kids, what disciplinary status that we want to use, religion, those things that really can break apart a relationship, those are your $100 problems. If you have those, you need some help and
Mhm.
you got to get it together. But if it's something small, and I don't have to be right, I don't have to even, like you said, discuss it, because this is a meaning. It doesn't mean anything. It's a very small issue. So
Mhm.
a lot of times I find in relationships that small issues people blow up and they make them $100 problems when they're really not. What's your take on that?
Yeah. So, well, my take is you get to a point where you blow up on smaller issues because you've allowed them to build up, and there's something underlying there that's really frustrating you, and because you may not even know what that problem is, you don't even know how to address that problem, and you've been holding on to it for so long that a small issue pisses you off.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
that's the thing that you can articulate, and that's the one that just happened. So it's easier to address that than to really sit down and reflect, like, why am I not happy in my relationship right now? What is it that what need is not being met right now? How can I constructively discuss this with my spouse so we can get this solved? We don't do that. So just like it just festers and it builds, and then like a bomb, it explodes.
Right.
And it's just like the one small thing that pops up, that's what it is. But I also wanted to give some really small tips, if you don't mind, like some things constructive, because I've been talking a lot. I want to give your audience like some small things that I've done to be able to more effectively communicate with my wife, and also the understanding that's really led to this, especially since it's a relationship and a marriage. So I ask you a question, like, what do you think the purpose of marriage is? Like, like, why do we get married?
So my purpose of marriage, and I believe the marriage goal that we set is, because we do the same: God, family, business, everything else. So our marriage goal is to become a union under God, do his command for our marriage, and raise our children. And then just share whatever we're going to share together that we build to the world.
I love it. I love it. And that's exactly what it is. Becoming a union first. That's big. Because generally, when you look at society as a whole in the era that we live in right now, when you ask somebody what's the purpose of marriage or why did they get married, hey, maybe it was to have sex, right? Maybe it's so I could have a partner. Maybe so I could have more love. Maybe so I can have kids. Maybe so I can have somebody that I can discuss my life with or grow with. Maybe somebody I can share the bills with. Maybe for the tax benefits, right? So it is. Oh, he's like, yeah.
Yeah, there's people out there.
And the challenge with that, and why I always ask that question is, those are things you could do on your own.
Mm-hmm.
So just like when the marriage starts getting rocky and shaky, and if those were the reasons that you got married, you could easily find a solution for that. You can meet those needs somewhere else. But what you can't do is form that type of union without another significant other.
Right.
You got. So that's what I believe the real goal of marriage is to become one mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically with your partner.
Absolutely.
Now, how do you do that? Like, how do you do that with all of the differences, with all of the different preferences, right? So that's what the goal is. So when you keep that goal in mind, like the goal is for us to become one, not to separate, not to be right, but how can we grow closer together? When you keep that in mind at every fight, at every juncture, you're more likely to stick with the relationship than try to find a way out.
Mm-hmm.
So now that I set that groundwork, the first thing that I would recommend all couples do if you're married right now is at the end of every day, man, maybe 10 to 15 minutes, share 3 things that you experienced and how it felt with each other each day. I read a stat that between work and everything that happens in our lives, like on average, we spend maybe 5 minutes talking to our significant other a week.
Wow. A week?
Yeah, between everything that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, like quality time, no TV, no nothing, 5 to 10 minutes. That's all we spend with our significant other. And you just really grow. You just taking care of everything. You just finally get to a point where you just really don't know each other. Like you're in the same house, you're doing all these chores, you're taking care of the kids, you're providing, you're eating, you're cooking, you're watching movies, but you're slowly but surely growing apart because you aren't expressing your desires, your goals, your dreams, your fears. Some of the things that are bothering you, we're really not talking about those. We're just trying to get done the next thing,
Right.
so we keep our life going. But we're not really communicating with each other. So I think that'll be one huge thing, just every day, 2 to 3 things at least, how it felt, and that's worked wonders in my relationship. If you got any questions about that, or if you've done that so far, let me know.
So I definitely hear that because my wife does mention when we have our state unions that she doesn't want a roommate.
There it is.
Yep. She wants a spouse. She wants that connection. She wants to be emotionally connected. She does not just want a roommate. And at times I have gotten to, I'm just trying to do this. I'm just trying to do that. I'm just trying to build this. I'm just trying to build that, running here and there and here and there. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, I need to really be intentional about this relationship and our relationship, because with anything, things grow when you water, plant, and tend to it.
Mm-hmm.
Things grow apart when you just leave it alone and they die. So I definitely hear you on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You got another question on me, or you want me to drop another nugget?
Drop another nugget, sir, please.
Yeah. So once we get that communication flowing, and you just really start to talk to your spouse. And you actually mentioned it as well. Like you do it during your State of the Union. We do that every night. We bought a book, and all it is questions.
Okay.
And you could we just flip through one page in that book every day, and just like it's a question, just like if you had your dream house and you could pick 4 locations in the U.S. to live, where would you go?
Right.
Like just getting us to talk more. It's just like who inspired you the most since you were a kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's just like what area of your life do you need to be more patient. It's just like from any movie that you watch, it's just like if you could pick an item from any movie or superpower for any movie, what would it be and how would you use it? You know, so just random things that just get you a better understanding of who your spouse is and what they like and stuff like that. Just silly stuff. So just those 3 things you ask each other, and then just questions every single day, just to get the other person talking about themselves, about their experiences. And that often leads to something else. Make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Now, before you go to the next thing, I have a question for you. And I've heard other people mention it before. What do you say to people who say, when we're doing these things intentional, what do you say to them that say, well, I don't feel like I should have to put that much work in?
What do you mean?
Like things should just be, we should just be happy. If we're compatible, we should just be happy. We shouldn't have to do the asking the questions. We shouldn't have to do the 3 things. We should just be happy.
So what I'd say to that, what does just happy mean to you? Let me get a clear understanding of what happiness means to you. Because what I know about relationships and about life, one, if you're not growing, you're dying. Like there's no in between. So marriages, they either get better or they get worse. Like you just don't stay in one place. Like that's the law of the universe. It's just like you grow or you die.
Right.
There isn't no in between. There's no stasis. So now you have a choice. And you can know, and I would ask that person based on personal experience, what it is that you want to be just happy, and how has that been working for you so far? Like your preference for just being happy, and whatever that means for you, whether it's not talking about your feelings, not scheduling quality time together, not making each other a priority. How has that been impacting your relationship? And for me, it was having a huge negative impact on my relationship. So I'm like, yo, how can I be more intentional and deliberate about making my relationship better? How can I be more intentional and deliberate about progress? And what I realized is I didn't have goals for my relationship.
Right.
I had goals for my finances. I had goals for learning, but I really didn't have goals for my relationship. I didn't have a vision for what I hope my relationship would become. I never really sat down and analyzed, what is it that I'm not doing in my relationship? What is it that I want out of my relationship? And how can I go about attaining that in my relationship? Those are questions that I never really asked until I hit that rock bottom point where it's just like, yo, wow, my needs aren't being met, my wife's needs are being met, and we're so angry and frustrated at each other, but we're not talking about it. And again, this comes back to our personality styles. I'm a high S, she's a high C. She has a lot of S in her. So we were never disrespectful. We were never rude to each other. But what we would do when we were upset with each other was withdraw.
Mm-hmm.
My wife often jokes, it's just like, we would have ever got to a point where it's just like, I was fed up with you. Like, I wouldn't even made it a fight. You would have just came home and found your stuff gone. My stuff gone. Worried about it. I'd have just been out, and that's dangerous. And but then you got other type of couple where it's just like you want to go back and forth fighting the war of tongues and stuff like that. So that's just basically our personality style. So to answer your question, if you don't feel as though you need to do anything to make your relationship get better, or you're unwilling to do anything to make it better, it'll just get worse.
Absolutely. What's the next nugget you got for us?
So I guess that was it right there. Answering your question is just like, if you look at your relationship, where do you want it to be? Like, really sitting down and taking the time to ask yourself, is just like, where do I want my relationship to be? What am I dissatisfied with in the relationship? You know? And then if you could find an answer to those questions, what am I doing to contribute to this?
Right.
Because what often happens, and it happened with me, right? So when I was working 60 hours a week and things like that, I was just like, yo, I wish I had more time to spend with my wife. Like, I'm the one who's never home, and I'm asking, I wish I had more time to spend with my wife, right? One of my preferences was that when I got home, like I had hoped dinner was ready for me and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things that I hoped. And one of the things that pissed me off, oftentimes when I wanted to spend quality time with my wife, she was more concerned with the kids. I just felt like I was on the back burner. And it's typically how this would play out. If I wanted to chill and watch a movie, she's like, yo, let me take care of the kids. Let me clean the house. Let me finish washing the dishes. And let me clean the room and all that stuff. And then I'll come chill with you. I'm like, yo, I just took time out of my schedule to spend time with you. And while I'm with you, you want to do all of these different things. It used to bug me. But what I realized is, like, based on my personality, like you and my love language, like, quality time is my thing.
Okay.
Acts of service is my thing. So she was doing for me. All right, so we treat people how we want to be treated. So right. I tried to give her quality time, and what she needed from me was acts of service.
Yep. Speaking the wrong language.
Yeah, and she was giving me, and she was cleaning up. She was making sure the house was impeccable. She was taking really great care of the kids. But what I wanted from her was quality time. So we were giving each other what we didn't want. And then if you would have asked me, it's just like, how do you feel about your relationship? Like, what's going on in your relationship? I'm like, yo, my wife, I'm doing everything in my power to give my wife what she wants, and nothing is working. How many things did you try? One.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 things, but I didn't try everything, and I tried everything except what my wife needed.
Wow. That's it right there. That is, if anything is a nugget. If you're speaking the wrong language, you can be doing everything you think in your power, and it's just not hitting right. It's not the right spot. It's not the right thing. And I think coaching, especially with what you do, helps people see that. You can open their eyes to that, because somebody come to you and be like, hey, Ben, I'm doing everything I know to do, and I just can't break through in this. And then you ask that one question, well, what are you doing? And is that what she needs?
No doubt.
And I guarantee the answer is, I don't know. I didn't ask.
It's always that answer. It's just, and we operate off assumptions. It's just like, I assume based on what she did, based on what she said, or based on past relationships, that this must be the case. I'm like, did you ask? No. Why didn't you ask? I don't see the point. Obviously, her behavior shows this. I'm like, nah.
I think in marriages, you have more behavior analysts than anywhere else.
No doubt. And what I find funny so far, and again, this is where one of my goals for my relationship is to be more open, honest, transparent, and vulnerable with my spouse.
Okay.
And essentially what that means is, and so again, what I realized is I'll be analyzing her behavior. I'll be wondering why she did a particular thing. And before in the past, I would think she did something intentionally to spite me. And I wouldn't say anything. I'll just keep that in my record book. Like, yeah, she did this, she did this. And all this time, like everything is negative. And it's just like, I'm assuming negative intent based on where I am in the relationship.
Right.
And that had to stop. So what I started to learn to do is when something happens that doesn't quite sit well with me, I want to ask for confirmation. Hey, babe, I noticed that you did X, Y, and Z. What did you mean by that? What did you intend by that? And then we actually talk about it. And what happens is you just find out it was an innocent mistake. One of the things that I live by now is we judge people based on their behavior, but we judge ourselves on our intent.
Oh, wow. Wow. So
Yeah,
even giving them a fair shake.
no doubt. So I'm just like, I want to know your intent now. Like I see the behavior, but what was the intent behind it? And then the way, like you talked about your state of the unions, what we do, and even every day, um, or whenever we get the opportunity. So my idea of constructive criticism has changed from the beginning of my relationship to now. But what I always ask myself whenever I do something, it's just like, yo, is this behavior working in my favor? Like, is what I'm doing helping?
Okay. Okay. So you're looking inward.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Like, and if it's helping, great. All right. If it's not helping, it's just like, why am I doing this? Like, what do I hope to gain by doing this? Is this selfish or malicious intent? Like I'm trying to do something for myself? Or again, if we go back to the goal, is this behavior of mine bringing us closer together, or is it bringing us farther apart? If it's bringing us farther apart, if it's because of malicious intent, because I'm feeling vindictive, I got to kill that. And then I got to confess that. I'm like, yo, God, like, what's going on with me right now? Like, why do I have this urge? Why do I have this feeling? Why don't I want to share this with myself? Why don't I want to do this with myself? Like, where's this energy coming from? Like, why do I feel this way? So explore that, confess it to God. And then I'm at a point right now because we built such a foundation, me and my wife, where whenever I have those negative thoughts, whenever I have those negative feelings, because we're human, like we have that side of us. And it's just like, I get that about myself. And I understand that about my wife. I'm like, yo, babe, you won't believe what I thought today. Yo, honestly, like I was saying in my head, this is how it made me feel. But I had to stop myself really quick and talk to God, like, yo, God, like, what's going on? And just like, I really wanted to share that with you because I want you to know that I love you and I appreciate you. And I just wanted to go ahead and confess that. And then she's like, yo, wow, I understand that, baby. I had the same thought. Then we could really just talk about where that thought came from. It was our background, or is it because of something that I assumed, or is it something that she might have done that I took the wrong way? So we're just more open, honest, and transparent with each other. And we aren't quick to get defensive or argumentative when we hear something that we disagree with.
Right. See, you giving me tips that I definitely got to take for myself because as we all are, we are continuously working and progressing to move forward, be better, be happier, do things better, change. And I think taking that self-assessment all the time, what is my intent, and taking every thought captive.
Every thought captive. I love it.
Every single one of them, because they will come in quickly. And I just find that with me specifically, I don't know, sometimes I just hear the way I hear it. You put some stuff on me. You got me thinking about some stuff. I hear some things and then I'm like, I think the intent is wrong.
Let's go.
But that's just how I'm perceiving that. But if I were to ask and clarify, then the intent is not even that thing.
No.
And my eyes high too, so I get emotional quick. Things that don't even, with my wife, that don't even have anything to do with me, I take them and put them on me.
Wow.
Like if she have a bad day here or have issue here and she's working through that, she may be a little bit quiet. And I'm like, what'd I do?
Oh, that's big. I used to do that all the time. Wow.
Wow. Yeah. So go take us there.
So, and what I noticed, and this is why I clear my conscience. So it's just like, if ever I do something, if ever I think something, it's just like no more secrets. I want to clear my conscience. So I never assume you're acting a certain way because of something I did. Well, that can't be the case because I told you everything I did. So what's bothering you? Like,
Wow.
let's discuss what's going on with you. Because I'm good. Because I told you what was going on with me. Or if there is something going on with me, I'm telling you. But if I did do something behind your back, if there is something going on with me that I haven't told you, I'm quick to assume you found out and you're acting this way, but you're not going to tell me. So it's just like, I heard Jada Pinkett Smith say it. She was just like, in relationships, we spend so much time trying to figure out how to not get found out.
Hmm.
Shit.
Yeah. Spend all the time trying to figure out how not to get found out.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
But then that speaks to inward integrity at that point. That's like you're not living a authentic life.
Exactly. And you talked about that in love phase in the beginning. Because what happens, like, if you're getting married and you really didn't follow the proper steps before you got married, I heard somebody say, like, yo, if you get married to the person where it was just like love at first sight,
Mm-hmm.
relationships don't really last that long. It's the ones where it's just like you weren't quite sure, you became friends, and then you just like, then that's the person. Those tend to last longer. And the reason why is when you first meet that person and there's that spark, what happens is you try to do everything in your power to impress that person at that time. And so do they. So they don't marry the real you. They marry the person you profess to be.
Absolutely. And then wonder why you've changed.
No doubt.
You became who you were. You just went to you became the real you
Mm-hmm.
because you were being somebody else when you were putting on.
Mm-hmm. And then it's that question we ask all the time is, am I worthy? Like, will she accept the real me? Can I be real truthful and honest with her and that person never meet me? I mean, leave me. And it's just like, I don't care how long you marry, you still have those thoughts. It's just, and what I've came to the point of believing is just like, nobody, um, you are better than the worst decision you've ever made.
Okay. Take us there.
And what it is, what I wholeheartedly believe now is just like, yo, people do bad things when they're in bad states, physically, emotionally, or whatever. So if I look back at all of the bad decisions that I made, the decisions that I regret, it's when I was in my most emotionally vulnerable state. And what I heard ET say one time, it was the first conference that I ever went to, and it's just like we were one decision, one fight, one cigarette, one drink, or one experience away from being homeless. Like we were all there. Like a
Right.
chain of
Yep.
events got us all strung out. And it's just
Yep.
like it's the God that we're still sane. And it's just like whatever it is that we're doing to keep ourselves sane, but it's just like it can happen to anybody. So don't think you're above God. Like God, He will humble you. So just getting that understanding that just people do things when they're in a negative state that aren't in their best interest. And sometimes they aren't even aware that it's happening.
Oh, wow. And I think awareness is one of the major things in not just relationships, but just all throughout life. Having an awareness that what I'm used to, who I am, isn't always the right thing,
Mm-hmm.
and why I act the way I act.
Yes.
And we just get so wrapped up in that's who I am that we don't even leave room for growth.
No doubt. And here's what's deep about awareness. So I got two things for you. There's a quote by Carl Jung, and he says, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your lives, and you'll call it fate."
Mm-hmm.
So the way I break that quote down is there are certain things that you do consciously, like you're doing it. Like I can't even say brush your teeth because so most times that's a conscious decision, but you could get into a routine. But there are certain things that you're doing, you're active and you're aware. Like if it's spending quality time with your kids, if it's going out on a vacation, is it going out to eat for the first time? Like whatever you're doing for a full time, like you're fully present. But then there are certain things that we do unconsciously that we aren't really aware of. Kind of like when you're driving on a highway or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and it's just like you're used to turning right to go to work, and there's this one day where you don't need the word to work, but you find yourself on the road to work.
Right.
You weren't aware of what was happening, and we do that all day in certain things. So there are certain beliefs that you have. There are certain facial reactions that you do. There are certain patterns of thought that you have that you don't even know you're having.
They're just happening.
They're just happening under the scenes, and then you're just behaving. You don't even know it, and then you ask yourself, why do I always find myself in this position? Why is this always happening to me? Like, have you ever asked yourself that question? Like, why is it always happening?
For sure.
Yeah. And just like when you get to that point, that's when you're becoming aware. You're starting to question. And then most people just stop there and assume that something happened outside of their control that's causing this to happen. And that's why we're calling it fate. So what I know the most successful people do is they take full responsibility. And what full responsibility means is taking responsibility for your actions, what you did, what you didn't do, and also how you respond. And then you get to a level of responsibility where you're taking the responsibility for what you thought.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's deep. So first, because most people, they stop at that first level where it's just like, I did what you said I was going to do. I didn't do this. Right. So it's just like you're just looking at your behavior. So it's just like, all right, you were supposed to do this. Did you or did you not do this? What else were you supposed to do that was an assumption or that really could have been done that could have added value to the situation that you didn't do? You're like, oh, man. All right, you're taking responsibility for that as well. How do you respond? Like when somebody brings you that bad news, when somebody acts in a way that you didn't expect them to act or in a negative way, how do you respond to them? Specifically your wife.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then what are your thoughts about that person when they do that?
Wow. It's a lot to unpack, just a lot to think about consciously. And yeah, you give me a lot of tools to implement, to think, especially just to take those thoughts captive. Have a higher purpose of thinking about me instead of just reacting and going along and thinking that it's the outside person that's, why you look at me like that? Well, maybe I gave off that first look in the first place and didn't even think about it.
No doubt. No doubt. That's it right there. And one of the things that I really wanted to share is a phrase that I use repeatedly in my relationship now is reasoning and logic. And it's just like, I understand fundamentally now that the way I reason and the way I use logic is completely different from my wife. So how I come to a conclusion is the opposite way of how she comes to the conclusion. Like we can have the same different experience, we can hear the same thing, but the conclusion we draw from that experience or that lesson is two different things.
Right. Yep.
But in the context of the relation, to be the same. So now when we have a fight, like I was telling you that other day, where I got to the point where it's just like I got out of my preference and considered hers and adapted to her preference, and that did wonders for the relationship because she ended up actually wanting to talk to me. When we had the disagreement or the fight, essentially what happened was I was like, all right, babe, it's funny. So what happened was I was in the bathroom. She overreacted to me, right? What's it called? I did something that I wasn't supposed to do, or she was really very upset at me for doing, and then she over responded. She yelled, right? And then I was just like, yo, it's not that deep, and I wanted to talk to her about it. But she didn't want to talk about it because she doesn't like to talk. She really want to reflect on and think about her emotions. So I let it slide. And it's funny because we have a kid now, because we've been implementing these things. My daughter, she's 4 years old. That was the first time she ever saw us react emotionally to something. So she was sleeping and she wakes up and she says, Daddy, you made mommy so mad. You gotta apologize to her. She went and got some toys. She's like, give mommy this, go do this, and apologize to her. I was like, wow, like the kids learn, right? Yeah. What's going on. So she asked me to do that. I do that because of her. And then my wife still didn't want to talk. And so I let it slide. But so the next day, I asked my wife, are you comfortable talking about what happened here? And then she says, no. I'm like, it's okay. And then later she comes back and says, yes, she wants to talk. And then I asked her, like, what is it about the situation that made you upset? Is it what I did? She said no. And then what she did was she brought up everything that I did in the past.
Okay.
That I made, all the flaws that I admitted. And she was like, that's why. And when she started bringing up all those things, what I said was, that's why you overreacted. And I get it. So I thought you was just upset about the one thing that I did, but you actually stacked all of the negative behaviors.
Triggers.
Yeah. And that triggered everything else. So I'm like, I get it. Based on your reasoning, based on your logic, that's the only way you could have reacted in the situation. I apologize. Your behavior was completely reasonable. I apologize. How can we get past this?
Yep. Yep. Because that's the end goal. How can we? How do we resolve it? How do we move forward?
Yeah. So it's just like, but I wouldn't have known that if I didn't take the time to understand and appreciate her world. I'm like, yo, I'm not perfect. I've done a lot of things. I've made a lot of mistakes. So it's just like, if you just look at all of those things as a whole, all of the things that I still need to work on, and if there's an emotional event that triggers that, that's all I expect. So
Yep.
what can we do to get past this is what's the next level. So I didn't make her feel bad for reacting the way that she reacted because we all have those triggers.
Yep.
So,
For sure.
and of course, I can't remember right now when I was triggered, but there are times where I get triggered, and it's just like she's able to understand and appreciate my world and get me to calm down. Because what happens when we're in that negative state, we don't need somebody to bash us,
Yep.
right? So we need somebody to be understanding and appreciative of how we're feeling. And then once we get through that, then they can bash us possibly.
Absolutely.
All right, what you got?
Okay, so in COVID-19, everybody's in the house. A lot of states have stay-at-home orders. A lot of people we're around our spouses, around our significant others, much, much more than normal. And I've seen on Facebook and I've seen other people kid and joke about it. Oh, it's too much time. Now I'm with this person and I just got to get away from them. How do you speak to that? What is going on with that type of mindset? What can we do to get beyond that and take advantage of this time?
So what I started to notice in my relationship before, and I guess I always gotta give you a story. So I got a little bit of C in me,
Hmm.
and basically I can be analytical, cautious, and precise. Like I really monitor things, right? For those of you who don't know, when you're looking at the DISC assessment. So what I've always been really conscious and aware of is the state of our relationship. Oh, let me just drop this nugget on you. One of the things that we do now in our household is when we come home, it's like, where are you at right now? Where your energy at? It's just like, if we're both above a 50, let's go. We can conquer the world, right? If you on a 20, I'm like, I got you 80. We
Okay.
add up to 100. But if we're both at a 20, let's talk about this. What should we not do today to mess each other up or frustrate each other? Because
Wow.
we're both at an emotion on each other. Let's not put more pressure on each other. Let's not do things that we really don't need to do just because we usually do it.
I
Because
like
we
that.
understand we're both at a vulnerable state. So that's another practical thing. So just gauging where each other at. But what I used to notice in before is just like, yo, it always happened. Like we could go 6 weeks strong, no argument, no fight. And then all of a sudden something just pops up. And it was always 6 weeks. And I could never get my nail on it. And another challenge we had is we could just never spend a day together without bringing up an argument. Like we can just sit there for a whole day and watch a movie or just do an activity without some differences coming off it, without us just fighting about something. It was the weirdest thing. I'm like, yo, I stress or I can't wait to spend time with you. And then when I finally spend time with you, I resent it after
Mm.
I spend so much time with you. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And what that was is we were clashing. So there was a lot of differences. There was a lot of unspoken things that were happening in our environment that we just weren't really aware of. So if you really look back at all the things that we discussed so far, that's what people are dealing with now in COVID-19. They aren't used to spending time together. They aren't used to talking to each other. They aren't used to accepting and appreciating each other's differences. They aren't used to letting the other person be right. They aren't used to trying to understand somebody else's logic and somebody else's reasoning for doing something and accepting that because it's different from them. We aren't used to that. So when somebody do something that you wouldn't do per se, or that you wouldn't appreciate, or that doesn't make sense to you, we have something to say about it.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
that's causing that rift.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, like you said, we spend so much time not trying not to be found out. I mean, how did I say we spend so much time in our relationship trying not to be found out? I don't know exactly how I said that quote. If you remember it, do you remember it?
Hey, something quite close to that. Yep.
Yeah, like we spend so much time in relationships trying not to be found out. And what that means is another aspect of it is because we aren't able to go outside, because we are able to do some of the things that we're usually able to do, some of the things that we try to hide from each other, ain't no hiding right now.
No, none.
Or whatever it is that you use to so all right, so here's what I realized about relationships. Like we all have these human needs,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and we all have a need for certainty. Like I really need to know that you have my back
Right.
when stuff hits the fan, that you have my best interest in mind no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Everybody needs, right? We all need that base level of certainty and comfort that I can trust you whenever something goes wrong.
Absolutely.
And then we also need variety. It's just like, yo, if you knew what was going to happen every single day, no matter what, and happen the same way, you get bored. So you need some type of spice in your relationship. Where it's just like, maybe it's a different food, rearranging the house, going out. Like you need to do something different to shake things up every now and then. Otherwise, it would be boring. Then at the same time, you want to know that you're important. You want to feel significant. It's just like, yo, I'm the man. My wife loves me. She could come to me with anything. Like you want to feel special.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And it's just like a lot of times that's really hard if you were fighting in our relationship to feel special and appreciated. Like that really rarely happens in relationships, depending on the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing that you want to feel is that love and connection, where it's just like, yo, this person would go to the nth degree to serve me. Or like this person puts my needs above their needs.
Yep.
And then you feel emotionally connected to that person as well.
Yes.
So and then after that, there has to be growth. Again, you came to that. We talked about that earlier where you asked the question is, can I stay the same? My relationship be good? No, because it's like if you think about goals, it's just like goals don't make us happy. It's progress that makes us happy.
Ooh, I like that. Let me write that down.
Yeah, so it's just like we always think it's just like I can't wait to make X amount of money. I can't wait to go on this trip. I can't wait to buy this house. I can't wait to buy this car. And we always think it's the item or the goal that's gonna make us happy, but it's the process,
Yep.
growth that makes us happy. So what goals do you have for your relationship and what process are you going through right now so that both of you can grow together so you can become that unit? So there has to be growth.
Definitely, because through the process, working together brings you closer
Mm-hmm.
on a common path.
Absolutely, no doubt.
Yo, for sure.
And then there has to be that some sense of contribution, like you're giving beyond yourself. And that's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So when you look at all needs, right? Where aren't a lot of times those needs aren't being met in our relationship. We aren't certain that our partner cares for us. We aren't feeling significant in our relationship. They're always bashing us. We're not feeling that love in our relationship. We don't believe they're putting us first and they're not putting us first. So none of our needs are being met in our relationship. So what do? We go meet those needs elsewhere.
Right. Yep.
That brings us further and further away from each other. So what I always tell my wife is just like, yo, how can I meet all of your needs? And if I meet all of your needs, you have no excuse to do something else or to be with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, what needs aren't being met during COVID-19? What is it that I can do for my spouse? Like, how can I get beyond myself? Like ET says, it's just like, baby, if you give it to me, I give it to you as long as you want. So it's just like, where can we give, right? How can we step outside of our own preference so that we can make our relationship better right now? So what can I sacrifice? And one of the things when I say sacrifice, like we tend to have a negative view of sacrifice. But what sacrifice means is giving up something of a lower nature for something of a higher nature.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, sacrifice. Yeah. So it's just like you're giving up something that wasn't doing you any good anyway.
Right.
Something better.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's giving up something of a lower nature for a higher nature purpose. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Because a lot of things we hold on to for us not doing us any good.
But and that comes back to the awareness and so like, what am I getting out of this? What am I getting out of behaving this way? What am I getting out of being right? And what if I chose to do the opposite of what I'm currently getting? What do I hope to gain from that?
That's good. That's good. That's phenomenal. Well, as we come down to this hour, our breaking point. This is so good. We probably stay on this for 2 hours, 3 hours.
No doubt.
What do you want to leave with the people? Parting wisdom. If you could tell us 3 things that will make our marriages, our relationships more abundant. What are 3 things you can give us that'll push us to an abundant state, a overflow, like ET says, have a marriage overflowing?
What are 3 things that'll push you to an abundant state in your relationship?
Yeah, so we can reach overflow.
So, and again, if you just look back at everything that we've discussed today, it's just going to be a really good composite of that. So really, the first step is always asking yourself, what do I want?
Okay. Yep.
What do I want out of the relationship? Like, what is the goal out of this relationship? So just really getting clarity of that. Clarity has power. There's power in clarity. So what it is that you want, right? And then what it is that you're doing to get what you want that's working. Like asking yourself, like, what is it that I'm doing right now that's getting me what I want, right?
Okay. Yeah.
That third thing is just figuring out what am I doing or what am I doing that I know I should be doing that I'm not doing? Like, what's stopping me from getting what I want? What behaviors, what beliefs, what judgments, right, do I have that's in the way? And most of the times we don't ask ourselves that critical question right there. What is it that I can do that I'm not doing?
Right, because it's always somebody else's fault.
Yeah. Exactly. So we know all the things that you're good at. Yeah, boost your self-esteem. You're doing some really good things. But what is it that you're not doing? Because what I realized, no matter who you are, no matter where you are in life, there's always an area of you or area of life that we could either change, make better, or improve. I want to know what's that area that you can improve.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal. Ben, how
Yeah.
can people reach you?
Oh, let me throw that third part. The last part here. What do I again when we was talking about that sacrifice? What will happen if I make that change? Like if I make that change, how will it help me reach my goal? Like how will my life be different when it happens? Like how will my relationship be different when that happens? How will my relationship with my kids be different? How will I be different as a result of this? So that's where it is right there.
Wow, phenomenal. Ben, I thank you for joining me tonight. Just a wealth of knowledge, wealth of information. I see Ben family, he be doing a lot of posting in some of the groups we're in. Lots of information that he has. If you are in the need of marriage coaching, if you feel like that there are some things you just don't have the answers to, um, you feel like, okay, maybe there is some things that I need help with, you need, or just even if you want to talk, maybe there's some things that you're not aware of that with just a simple conversation, a simple consultation, you can be made aware of. Ben, how can they reach you for that marriage coaching?
So I'm available on majority of social media platforms. So you can reach out to me on either YouTube, you could get me on Facebook, and you can even get me on Instagram. Is at Ben and Tima. So at BENTIMA. You can reach out to me at that platform, or you could email me at billionaireexecution.com.
Give me that first one at Ben.
Ben and Tima.
BENT.
BENNAND Tima TIMA.
You're killing me. I'm tripping. Spell it for me one more time.
So my first name BEN.
Yep.
And AND.
Okay.
Tima TIMA. So that's me and my wife. My wife's name is Fatima. So Ben and Tima. You can find me on all the social media platforms at that handle. And you can also email me at benandtima@gmail.com. So that'll work as well.
Okay. Before I let you go, I gotta know, where did the name Billionaire Ben come from?
Oh, I set a goal to be a billionaire, man.
Okay.
So I didn't want to limit myself, so it was always to be a millionaire for the longest time. Then I was just like, why millions? Make it a billion. And I just understand the subconscious programming that comes with that. So I'm just calling myself that. And what I really want to do is tackle a really large problem. And I think I got the problem in my head right now. I'm not going to divulge it at this time.
Okay.
What problem that I could solve would generate billions for the world, and finally I earn a billion. So I'll generate trillions for the world, but I'll have a billion for myself. What problem is that? What issue is that?
Okay.
Just always keeping that in my mind. So now people calling me Billionaire Ben.
Yep.
I call myself Ben, but everybody's calling me Billionaire Ben, and each time it happens, it makes me think about that problem and what can I do to help people.
Phenomenal. Ben, I appreciate it. Facebook, YouTube, and other platforms around the world. This is another episode at the Empowerment Platform where our only goal is to empower you to reach your goals. I hope that you enjoyed this interview and discussion as much as I did. We are all a work in progress. None of our marriages are perfect. We can only seek to continue to move forward and grow and make it better and better and better. As we grow old together, we work through all of our differences and situations. So you stay safe out there, family, and we will see you next week.